In this lesson, we'll learn how to work inside of 3ds Max's Curve Editor. The Curve Editor is going to be one of your most important animation tools. The reason why is because it gives us full control over our timing and the overall look of our animation. So we can use it to add weight, to add follow-through, to make sure that the principles of animation exist in our performances. So what we see here is the end result of our character interaction tutorial, and it's because of the Curve Editor why we were able to add fluidity and polish this work. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at how the Curve Editor works. We'll go ahead and head over to Tools, and we'll choose Manage Layer so we can reveal the control objects. Let's go ahead and show that layer. From there, we'll go ahead and work with the purple character. Let's go ahead and grab her left leg control. Now, I'd like to point out that you can work with a mini curve editor by simply going to the left of the track bar. Notice we can access it from here. This is just a very fast way of going in and making some fine adjustments. Over to our left, we find the tracks that we can work with. If we have added any animation, Max will go in and highlight those tracks for us. We'll take a look at an option that will do that. That way we can quickly get in and start to tweak what needs to be fixed. Alright, so I'll go ahead and close this out and show you yet another way we can access it. Of course, we can access it from our quad menu by right-clicking and choosing the Curve Editor from here. And then don't forget about the Graph Editors menu. You'll find it right at the top. So again, over to our left are our animated tracks. Now, something very important I want to point out here is that we should always go to the Show menu and check our Auto Expand and Auto Select settings. I like to make sure Animated is on. That way we can get not only to our transform parameters, notice we can make sure that that is active, but more importantly, we want to have access over the animation that we've tied to custom parameters. Let's say if we wanted to globally change the timing of our animation. Well, if Animated is not checked under Auto Expand nor Auto Select, well then we might have trouble grabbing those custom parameters. We'd have to go to Modified Object and go ahead and search for those. But it's much faster if we already have those checked. That way, we don't have to concern ourselves with that, because there's nothing worse than leaving some keys behind after we have realized that not the entire animation has been edited when we have tried to retime our performance. Alright, so we just need to be very careful about that. Alright, so let's go ahead and take a look at our workspace here. We see these curves. These are our function curves. It's a representation of how we transition from keyframe to keyframe. So, if we wanted to go in and tweak the character's position Z channel, we can go ahead and find that. I'll go to 0 position XYZ, go ahead and find the Z channel. And now take a look. We can go in and select our keyframes. We could start to tweak the animation, and you can see how that will update. Now, if you would like an update on the fly, simply head over to your View menu and turn on Interactive Update. So now notice, as we start to tweak this keyframe right here on about frame 40, can do so and see the change update instantly. All right, great. So to move our keys, again, we just go in and use the left mouse button. Now, if we would like to lock the movement of a key either vertically in value or horizontally in time, we simply want to hold down Control. So notice as we drag up and down, we cannot move this key left or right. If we hold down Control and drag left and right, we cannot move the key up and down. So I find that to be also very helpful, because a lot of times we just want a key retimed, or we just want to change our value. If you'd like to remove a keyframe, you most certainly can do so by simply highlighting that key and hitting the Delete key on your keyboard. So in this case, if I were to just minimize the Curve Editor to take a look at that change, you can see the leg isn't brought up high enough. No worries, let me go ahead and show you how to add a key. It's just a matter of right-clicking and choosing Add Key. So now when we go ahead and click on our F-curve, notice it's added instantly. Now, once you're in Add Key mode, you'd want to right-click and choose Move Keys so that you don't add too many keys to your function curve. All right, so we could always just go in and lift this leg up a little bit higher and take a look at the change. So that's better than it was before. Great. I'd also like to point out that we have some key stats at the top on our toolbar. So if we want to take a look at what frame this key is on, or the value of that key, we can get that information right here at the top. Now, what's cool about this is we could actually work with simple expressions to update the animation we see here. I'll go ahead and show you how to do that. Let's say if we wanted to go to frame 43. Well, instead of typing that value in here, we can go ahead and use a simple expression of n plus 5. Now, when we hit enter, you can see that we have moved this key 5 units. So that's how simple expressions work. We can also, of course, go in and multiply our value. So if I were to go ahead and select that key and multiply by, let's say, 2, to double this frame, we'll go ahead and put in n times 2, and there we have it. But that's probably not the best choice for this animation, so I'll go ahead and undo back, just pressing Ctrl-Z a few times. All right, great. Now, speaking of our key stats, remember when we right-click on our keyframe, we can get to a lot of information from here. We can see the time the key is on, the value, just like what we see here at the top. We could also adjust the tangential properties of our keys. That's what these lines are connected to each keyframe. Please note that when you are using any other tangent type other than spline, which is also known as custom, or auto, we do not have access to our tangents. So you can see here, if I go ahead and choose smooth, how our rollouts now change to indicate that, hey, we have now changed the tangent property of this key to smooth. But what's great is that we can customize our tangent however we'd like. We can come in and set this to stepped. So you can see what that will do. It's going to create a blocky effect when we leave that key because we've adjusted the out side of the tangent. We can go to the in half of the tangent and set this to, let's say, custom. And now we're given access over a tangent handle we can modify. All right, so that's basically how those options work. If we click on Advanced, take a look, we can get to some information here to put in some precise values. So if we want to set our orientation for this tangent to 0 to flatten it out, we could always go ahead and right-click on the first parameter here. On the inside, you can see how it's kind of locked here. If we were to go ahead and unlock it, that's going to give us control over both halves. So you can see we have independent control over each half. So sometimes we want to do this when we want to have an object, let's say, hit a surface really hard. Or if you're working on a heavy walk cycle, when you reach your down position, you can go ahead and break your tangent, and that's going to create a harder hit. So if we were to take a look at the animation here, if I were to just go ahead and minimize it and scrub through, you should notice that there's more of a pop in that leg because of that break we've just added in the position Z. If we'd like to adjust the length, we most certainly can do so by using the parameter underneath. Now, if I were to go ahead and set this keyframe to auto, you can see that it's going to lock our values here because auto is just a way of kind of refreshing the key. But once we start to move it, then we could start to adjust our properties. You'll note that it immediately becomes a custom tangent. Now, something else I'd like to point out is that in order to unify a tangent, you can see it's still broken, we would have to head over to tangents and use unify tangents. All right, so now when we go ahead and use that, note what has happened here in our key properties. The lock icon has been enabled. So now you'll see that the tangent works together again, no longer separate. All right, really neat stuff. And of course, if you like to break your tangent, we know how to from our key properties, or you can head over here to the toolbar and use this option. So I've just broken a few tangents here. If we would like to do so from our menu at the top, you'd simply head over to tangents and choose break tangents. All right, great. So what I'll probably do is go ahead and select the keys that we have just edited here. And I'll go ahead and use set tangents to auto. Now let me go ahead and show you something else. I'm going to take this key on 38 and I'm going to delete it to bring up an interesting point. Sometimes we want to adjust our tangents instead of creating keyframes because very easily we can populate our function curves with keys, and that can clutter things up, making it very difficult to edit our work. So a good rule of thumb is to get as far as you can with your tangency. So you can see I've brought the tangent up a bit more, and we're basically getting the same result with fewer keys. So that's the idea behind that. So see how far you can get by breaking your tangents, or excuse me, by adjusting your tangents, not breaking them, unless you're, again, working on a heavy hit. But again, let's see how far we can get with our tangents before we decide on adding more keys to our function curves. We might notice that we're still able to get the look we want, and it's less of a hassle because if we need to go back and tweak the animation, well, we're dealing with fewer keys. We can just jump in and tweak a few things here and there to make that adjustment. All right, so in this lesson, we've taken a look at how to work with the curve editor in 3ds Max. Please do experiment with this and get comfortable with working with your tangents, get comfortable with just timing your animation inside of this editor because it will cause your work to transform. If you'd like to learn more about this, feel free to take a look at character interaction in 3ds Max. We also have animation blocking and polishing techniques that goes through the entire process of how to start an animation and then how to finish it with an end result that we can be proud of.